Oh, hello there, Outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. I am absolutely pleased that we get to have an incredible roundtable with four incredible trailblazers who are going to share more about their journey, how they look at things, and honestly, just keep it real with like what the actual path looks like currently for them. We talk about Outliers edge, and it's not Outliers average or Outliers comfortable, right? This is our space here to really give you a chance to see like how four awesome people are choosing to continue to navigate the game in real time. So I'd love for you to get a chance to get to meet the outliers we have here today. Why don't we start off in this way here? Why don't we start with you, Dr. Larson? Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game that you're currently playing?
Hello, and how awesome is this? How awesome is this voice? And I'm so excited to hear from everyone on this panel. Dr. Larson, Sarah here, and it is wow, reinvention. Truly, truly taking the old and upgrading it to the next best thing moment by moment. So, as a medical intuitive, as a podcast host, of Miracle Makers podcast, we see every breath as a miracle. And every person that is before you is a divine appointment, something from beyond that called us to come together and create the next best synergistic experience together. And so that's the game I'm playing that we're into. How are we being called to serve together to fulfill on the greatest good we can create? That's miracles, miracle makers.
Well, Dr. Larson, I'm glad that you're here. There's already some things that you're doing that's getting me thinking like outliers. You're listening to this, like the introduction is usually like my one of my favorite parts here because we get to see so much about you and how you choose to show up in the world. So thank you so much for that. Shush, we'd love to get to know you. Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So, my podcast is called Entailing Tales. I basically want to give some positivity, some kind of knowledge, little bit of philosophy that I would like to know. My podcast goes into sharing stories. I feel that everything in this world has a story to say. Even trees and every place has a story. Every little church, temple, everything has something significant. I like history, so I like digging into the stories and culture and the traditions. So some tidbits from here, there, some positivity. That's what I spread through my stories. Yeah, so that's what I do in my podcast.
Well, I'm glad
Find
I'm
happiness doing that.
Yeah, we're gonna be exploring happiness. Like I like the things are just aligned, right? It's just I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad to see how we play today. Nick, why don't we let outliers know more about you? You mind sharing more about you and the game you're playing?
Hey, my name is Nick, and the game I'm playing is story hacking. I have a podcast. It's called the Story Better Podcast, and it's about the story we tell ourselves about ourselves and the world around us. And what I think is most beautiful is how we can dive into our internal narrative and change the world around us.
Nick, I can see we're gonna have some fun here. This is awesome. As you do story hacking, can you do me a favor? And like if there's something that needs to be hacked in this conversation, whether it's a story or the conversation itself, I get that like you have like laser precision, and I'd love for that to like to come into the space. You good with that?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. I don't know how we're gonna play with it, but I do want to play. All right, awesome. And then Travis, would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're playing?
Yes, sir. Niiamah, thank you very much for having me on. So, I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I use therapy, my consulting, public speaking, and my book to help people realize that they have the strength and the skills to reach their fullest potential. My podcast is TechCast, where I talk society, politics, therapy, and a little bit of everything.
Well, I'm glad here. A little bit of everything, I think, is probably the right kind of blend for today. So we're gonna go and have a conversation. The way I like to look at it is that, like, we brought in together a bunch of people who don't know each other yet. Then we're gonna have a conversation to see in many different ways how y'all choose to navigate things. Dr. Larson, you actually there's something in your introduction that struck me, and I want to bring it into our space here as a starting point. So you talked about being a medical intuitive. I was like, ooh, what is that? Right? You talked about being a medical intuitive. Before I even get on with the rest of the question, I think let's just clear the air real quick around like what a medical intuitive is. Can you want to let us know?
Oh, I love it. Thanks for that. Medical intuitives are intutes or people that are highly sensitive and able to sense what's going on in the environment or in another's body. I happen to also be an MD, medical doctor. Medical school, non-government organizations is where I worked until I made babies. And when I made babies, and I recognized in near death experiences, I want to say this another way. I had near death experiences that allowed me to have an understanding of abilities that we all have. Some people can walk into a room and sense, oh my gosh, there was something terrible that happened, or a couple might have been fighting. That's an intuitive sense. You might have a moment. Institute of Noetic Sciences showed that we all have up to 3 days, and knowing if we're going to wind up in an accident or something like that. Any person can know what's going to happen in the next 3 seconds, whether a positive image or a negative image is going to come up. And so an intuitive has a sense, an ability to listen to your body, to see things, to experience things that you might not yet have words for. It's amazing. It's living from the heart, and it's giving words to energy that haven't been given by those around you yet. And so that's what a medical intuitive does. They scan the environment and give words to it.
I love this here. Like, thanks for clarifying. It's not what I had in mind at first. So I'm glad I asked. What struck me as you were introducing yourself was that what came for me was like this element of the brand, right? It's like you're Dr. Larsen, right? It's medical intuitive. You talked about a divine appointment, and I was like, oh yeah, that's like tuned in, like you. And rather than like trying to speak in the language of anyone else, you're like, this is my world. Like, come on in. And so I want to like start us off here, and goes to everyone. The way that I'm going to ask these questions, I'm just going to toss it into the proverbial middle of the screen, in a sense, and have us all just kind of pick up and see what comes up. I'm curious how each of you have leaned into making your business, the things that you do, the trails that you blaze more of your world, more unique, your own unique world. And I'm not just about like, oh, this is what I do, like as in I use these languages, like this language. I'm actually really curious about like like both what it is and like what it took from you to be able to create something or choose to stand by something that most other people wouldn't necessarily do. It's like, oh, like now we have to ask, what's a medical intuitive, as opposed to be like, I'm a coach or something. Like, I'm not saying that's the space there. So that's the question I have in here. Tell us more about like how you like create your world and have the wherewithal to stay in alignment with that altogether. Anyone want to get us started?
Sure, I'd like to if you didn't mind.
Yeah, and as you come
So,
on, this first round here, just say your name one more time so the outliers can associate your voice with your name and
no
ask you
problem.
questions.
This is Travis Knowlton. Yes, no problem at all. The way I try to keep an alignment is I put a lot of focus towards building my very specific values that I go off of and convictions that I have. I believe your identity is built in those values. Compassion, authenticity, perspicacity, and indefatigability are my four. The last two just are fancy terms for laser focus, and I like to compete with myself. That's really all that means. But one thing that I like to do in my practice in the consulting and speaking that I do is I like to use situations from my own life. A lot of therapists kind of have this wall up where you don't really get to know them as a person. And I think that is critical because the core of what I do is helping and teaching people build productive relationships. And if I'm not authentic, then we're not starting off from the right spot.
Yeah, alongside of that, like with what Travis said, something that I keep reminding myself is to imitate myself. And I know that sounds like counterintuitive or even paradoxical, But a lot of times we have to ask ourselves who we are, and we have to bring that into the world. And so, Travis, I'm in alignment with that. I think that's really, really true, that we have to figure out this authenticity that should come from us, and that's how we, create the world around us.
Nick,
I
stay with
love the idea. Oh, sorry, Nick. I love
the,
the idea of imitating yourself because you're always checking yourself. I like that. I like that.
could you make that more real for us here, Nick? Like, give us a chance to like see, like, if Outlier today was like, I'm gonna imitate myself. What is that like? How does that actually play out?
Yeah, I think Travis hit it with some values. You know when you're starting to feel inauthentic because you can feel it in your body. There's something that happens in your gut. Maybe it's the back of your neck. You get tense. You realize you're saying things that you don't actually believe, and that is a big barrier to authenticity. And so I think checking in with the body is one of the first things that I like to do. The second thing is the projected outcome. Like, who do I want to be? And Travis again hit it on the head. It's about values. And a lot of times it's the difference between values and convenience. If I say I value something and I want to go out there and do it, but then like I get stuck in the convenience, like actually it's hard to live from values. It really, really is. And so it's the moment where you have to feel a little bit of that pressure. And you might go out there and say something weird or say something stupid, and then you might feel the weight of that. But it's kind of like leaning into that ick of who you are, and then it comes out like, man, like it works so much better than you thought it would actually work.
Dr. Larson, just anything coming for
Well,
y'all on this
thank
one?
you. It works better than you think it's going to work. The best moments are those I I know where you don't know what the next word is going to be. You and everyone with you is on the edge of their seat because you can feel the synergy in the environment uplifting. It's amazing when we get down to the level of what we're created on a particle level, the atom level, the core that makes everything up. Whether we call that the universe, we call it God, we call it space, we're at 99.99% space, just like the sun, just like the stars. And most of our body is made up of stardust, the iron, the carbon, all of it. And what we've learned as humanity is that we're one particle when it has touched another particle and moves apart from that particle. When it spins, when that same particle, so let's say a purple particle is split into two purple particles, and particle A has a spin on it, that second spins at the same exact time. It's incredible to say there is something within us that once we meet another person, or once we remember that we're stardust and that we're dancing in this incredible way, every molecule, every atom, every particle is doing this. And we remember that. And I love everything that Travis and Nick have shared, which is radical self-awareness, radical self-analysis, and radical upgrading of that, and based on value systems. And so for me, every step on my journey for me has been, I feel better being in service. And when I'm not able to tell the truth or show up authentically, whenever I'm in fear, I go into a space and reconnect with myself, and then re-emerge that radical self boundaries, so that, and it's taken years to get to this point. It took me, I would say, a good 20 years to know, oh, if I step into fear, then I'm not thinking from my higher self, from my service self, or from the star dance particle version of myself, tuning into what's happening inside me and inside the environment. 1 ounce of fear creates a blindness in our ability to assess the moment. And so thanks for asking that.
Dr. Larson, I'm appreciative of this here. You also have, I have two young kids, and so we've watched Disney's Wish, and the song "You're a Star" is like now just playing on in the back of my mind here. And I love, like, one of the things that I love here is how we can take a high level concept like that, but then also like ground it and Outliers, I want to like make sure that you're hearing this, because a lot of people I bring on here, like they have this gift of being able to see the world as they see it in a way that like it's like I've never heard of story hacking before, right? But they're able to bring it into a way that it's like, by the way, this is how it works out practically, that like, and I love this element here because it's rooted and grounded. So thank you all. Shish, is anything coming to you on this one?
Yeah. So, something common that I heard everybody say is the word value. The same thing is what, keeps me going as well. So, I feel the world is very beautiful place, and I feel that there is beauty in everything. Even the harshest of something in this world has something positive to convey to us. So that's what I believe in. And my podcast also, mostly I concentrate on things that like example, an eagle, people say like it's a very stern bird, it's a little, but what can we learn from that? What are the beautiful things, from the life of an eagle? So that's what I like to see, and that's how I see the world. So most of my podcasts I highlight on such things. There can be different people in this world that we don't like, but they'll have their own positive characteristics. So that's what I would love to say through my podcast. So I take up events or some bird or political figures, and I talk about the positive of them. The bad side, everybody, the world will know, the news would tell, but they will have something that they would have done good. So that's what I would like. That's how I see the world, and that's what I want people to know as well. So through knowledge and philosophy, this is what I would like to convey through my podcast. And I'm very happy that all of us are, united through that one word value, and that, yeah, that's something I like about what is happening today. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think like value and values like are play out really, really huge in the space of trailblazers, right? So like the values of like your core, like who you're being, and the value in terms of like, hey, like I'm here to actually bring something out with that. And so I love the juxtaposition of that. And thanks just for calling that in. I want to keep playing with some of this here. Nick, you got me tantalized by story hacking, all right? And I want to see how we might be able to play with that a little bit here today. I think there's a question forming around it. But would you do us a favor real quick here and just like let us know what story hacking is again? Refresh what it means to you.
Yeah, story hacking is essentially the story we tell ourselves about ourselves and the world around us, and how we have influence over that. We have autonomy, we have control. And so, like, there's this thing called the internal locus of control. And a lot of people, when their stories are spinning out, or they don't feel good, or they're just out of control, Travis might be able to speak to this on a level of like a therapist, but we don't feel we have control. And so it's really taking stock of what we have control of and then controlling those things. And then also, just like philosophy, I love Stoicism, and how Stoicism really asks us as a philosophical narrative, like, what you can control that, and what you can't control, you're not going to. So please, just live life. And I think that's where story hacking really, for me, comes to life, is when I start to look at the lives of other people and start to take the bits of their story that I love best, like from Steve Jobs, or maybe Seneca, or whoever it might be in antiquity, and all the religious writings. I feel like there's so much deep ancient wisdom that's just locked in between some of the stories that we don't see, because we might look at the story in a really the way that everybody else is looking at it. As story hackers, I'm asking people to take a look at their story and the stories around them, and then find that bridge that allows them to have better control.
Nice, nice. All right, so let's play with that. Thank you for that. I think
Nick,
I
can
think
I ask a question? Would this
please,
be a
Dr.
story hack to say, right here, this you have two young children, and you shared that in the world, and you watched Wish, and when you watched it with your wife, the chromosomes, the what made your children is still alive in your wife. So as your children watch that movie, her heart, and if they laughed, if they cried, they delivered in uterus when they were in your wife's belly. They delivered to her heart stem cells And we now know that for the next 40 years, every time your wife or your children laugh, her heart can sense it, and their heart can sense that mama's laughing, that whole, you're still connected to your mother at that core level. Is that an example of story hacking here? To take what is so profoundly a star that breaks apart, dancing alive within us, is now seen in your beautiful children and you as you watch the movie Wish, and your wife feeling all the emotions that your kids are feeling, and your kids able to feel that as well. They're not necessarily aware of it, just like you might not be aware of what the star, our sun, is doing at this current moment somewhere, like releasing a starburst or sunspots, but it's having an effect on us, just like your children are having an effect on your wife and vice versa. We know in science that's going to happen for the next 40 years of their life. A happy wife, a happy mom makes for happy, healthy children.
So if I could add to that, Nick, because you got me excited, and I was thinking, first thing that came to mind is amor fati, love fate from Stoicism. Love fate, love what's happening to you. And when I hear this conversation, everything that's happening, this is my therapist mind kicking in, where I hear everybody saying, and the idea here is that our purpose and our passion isn't for us, it's for others. But what is for us is the wisdom, and we get the wisdom from staying in our ick. And putting all of these different things together, when you learn to live in your ick, you connect with other people, which releases oxytocin, and that's the love and the cuddle hormone, and bringing everybody together. And it just makes me think of story hacking again. Sorry, Niiamah, I just put it all together, but my brain's going like 100 miles an hour, so I had to kind of put the pieces together there.
Yeah, no apologies necessary in this space here. Like this is I love this is just a showcase. Like, and this is like my whole real thing here is like for any outlier that's listening, I'm hopefully your brains are moving really quickly, and and we're seeing things, and we're able to make new connections that we haven't brought in, like seen before, and we're just giving ourselves more tools to be able to look at something in the way. Um, and also just being like, we can just be us and have the conversation exactly how we would do it. So like I'm glad. I'm an audio processor myself too. So like I love to like I have to hear it to really get it, you know? Awesome. Let's stay here with one other thing on the I'll frame it underneath the story hacking line, but I love for y'all to make something real for us here. Um, what is share with us? Yeah, I'll probably take one or two people here, but like tell us about a story of like a time of um this is say call it like great failure, like something where you're like, oh wow, this did not go well, you know. And then being in that space here, like when I think about story hacking, I think about ownership, right? And choosing to like how you want the narrative of that to go for you. So would you mind? I'll take probably take one or two people here, but like share a story of like great failure for you, Travis. I see you there, so we'll go there. And some of the lessons that you learned, some of the things that you did to recreate that story in a way that continues to build you. So Travis, start us off.
Sure, sure. So transitioning out of the military to be a civilian again was extremely tough, and I was refusing therapy and bettering myself, and I thought I was fine, and I was locked into it. And I ended up finding myself in a position of about 2 years where my wife would not tell me she loved me, and rough. Everything was extremely tough and rough, and I was kind of by myself, just existing, and I created kind of my own hell. And I had to wake up and realize what and who I needed to become. And some of the things that my wife said to me at the time, one that sticks with me to this day is, would you want our daughter to marry somebody like you? And I know that sounds rough, but that was life changing. And for me, the answer is always no, because I need to constantly be and do better. And that has shifted my perspective to heavily focus on what we were talking about a minute ago, with the values and the convictions, and putting forth that authenticity and compassion for other people.
Yeah, just to tag along that, Travis, I think one thing that comes to comes to mind is I was working as a chief marketing officer, and the tension in my life was just I was overworking. I was at a point where I was not happy with myself. My kids hated me, my wife. There was radical tension in our household. And what I started to realize was I'm trying to prove myself through my work, and I'm trying to prove myself through these means that I learned as a coping mechanism as a kid. Like if you guys know anything about like Enneagram, like I align with the Enneagram 3. I'm just a high achiever. But when I started to really think about it, it wasn't a high achievement from I want to win and I want the people around me to win. It was from fear. And I know Dr. Larsen talked about this a lot, is that fear can warp us and twist us. And I'll just be honest, my life was completely warped where I was trying to please other people. And in trying to please other people, I was so inauthentic. I was not myself. And I just felt it in my body. And so to that, Travis, I know we might have two different contexts, but I think that there's this thing where once we get a hold of this idea of authenticity, it serves us, and it serves us for the better. Meaning that like our truth self has to come out, and that sometimes means embracing the fear or having the fear in the car with you, because a lot of times we get to the point where we just want to expel fear completely, just 100%. But there's a moment where we learn from it, where we can say, I have to look at the mirror. I have to see what that fear has done to me. And then almost making peace with it, almost making like an allyship with it, where the shadow self gets integrated into the totality of self. And we find I actually love the person that I'm becoming because I was able to face those things that I didn't want to face about myself.
Yeah, learning to befriend our demons. Very, very much so.
Learning to befriend the parts of ourselves that we have given away. This is Dr. Larsen here, Sarah speaking. And when I completed medical school and when I went through non-government organizations and was working and delivering babies and in the nonprofit world, I felt very, very proud of myself. And I wanted to be the Mother Teresa of medicine. I was taking steps. This is speaking to that question about being a failure or feeling like a failure. And what I felt when I became a mom, and there was my dream to be a mom and to raise them. And I knew I couldn't bring them into the third world. And I wanted to give them, my children, the opportunities that I had been given. And so one of the most important things for me at that point was to I got depressed because I had such a beautiful education. I went around the world, and now all of a sudden I wasn't doing that, and I felt selfish inside myself. Why wasn't I serving? Why wasn't I out there in the world? And I was leading a workshop, helping a small group, and I was sharing this part about being depressed because I wasn't out there. And the place that I was part of this retreat, one of the nuns there said, she said, darling, you don't have to go into the third world. Find a way to be of service right where you are. And that was such a huge wake-up call that I didn't have to do these grand things or these grand ideas. I could become and be in service right where I was. And this speaks to, I think, values of what Sushi and Nick and Travis and what we're talking about. Niiamah, here, what we're saying is my value of being in service was when I could see myself through that lens again. I could reignite the passion and the radical self-acceptance, and it's that when I was judging myself for my Ikigai or the ick wasn't in alignment, that when I got it in alignment and disaster proofed my mind, so to speak, I'm not out there. It from my heart, be of service wherever I am. That really transformed. And it came from someone outside myself being able to see me. Every best thought that I had up until that point got me into that depression. And it wasn't until I allowed and shared what was going on within me could someone give me insight. And so that's a very important part of this.
Dr. Larsen, I heard you talk about Ikigai, and yeah, I would love to hear like your experience with that. And Travis, I know you pointed to your poster right behind you because it's right there, and so I would just love to just hear like what your thoughts are on that, and maybe what you consider your Ikigai to be.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I can sum it up into what my personal mission statement is. That's my Ikigai, which is to inspire the awakening of the warrior within. That's kind of putting all that together and struggling and working and fighting with myself. That's what it comes down to. But Ikigai in it's Japanese. In English, it means purpose.
So I find myself right now pretty curious here. So it's just like one of the things I like I think I get about you is that you're good at being able to take in a lot of different data and synthesize it and such. So I'm really curious about your experience in the conversation, anything that you want to put into our space right now, whether it's about Ikigai, whether it's about failure, whether it's about anything here. Very curious what's flowing through you right now.
Me?
Shush. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Travis like, is that me? Are you describing me? I don't know. Sure, so what you got?
Yeah, so I just wanted to share my experience about the failures. Like, I was back in India, I was into automotive engineering. There was a point in my life wherein I lost my job. I was bad in, like, had a disaster in a relationship. I lost a dear one, and life was total shattered. I was not doing podcasts also that time. My life was like totally bad. I had no purpose in life. I was like, what should I do? I have nobody. And then I sat down. I wanted to see, like, how do I want to see myself? How do I, like, in the next couple of months, I have to get a job. I have to be successful. I have to be the happy person I was once upon a time. Get back to podcast, go out, go meet people. That's what I envision myself to be. Exactly like how Mr. Travis had told that what he visioned was how his daughter's future, whatever the person she is marrying should be. That's how he envisioned himself. That's how I envisioned myself, how I would want to be if I had to be in a better place. And that helped me in 3 months of that bad time. I got a job. I got back into podcasting. I connected with new people. I moved to a new city, made new friends, and life changed. It took time. It did take time, but every day I was getting better. So that's something that helped me through. Yeah.
All are fantastic here. I'm enjoying this here. I'm gonna bring in one last thing. I'm curious about this for each of you, and then we're gonna wrap up for today. All right. I'm gonna try and bring it underneath the lens of Ikigai here. And Travis said Ikigai is purpose, right? In a translation of that. And Outlier, if we're not familiar with Ikigai, we're not going to go into it right now, but please take some time to go look it up. Just one simple search on Google will get you in the game. Here's the question I have around this here. I know there's something about when I'm really on purpose, right? In fact, I even end every single conversation say, "Be you on purpose," right? There's two parts to that, right? The first part of it is like the be you intentionally, and then the second part of it is like, and don't forget that mission that you're on this planet for a reason, right? Go do that. Be you on that. I'm really curious here about the purpose that y'all are playing with and how right now you're bringing that out in the world, specifically around what I'll call like your sweaty palms project, your sweaty palms mission. What's the thing right now that you're taking on in your life, your business, and your impact that is you being the trailblazer that hasn't been like it isn't done yet. We don't get to come in and talk about like, hey, this sucked in the past, and now I have transcended it. It's like, no, this kind of sucks right now, but I'm still excited for it, right? What's something that you're building that like you feel is like in alignment with your Ikigai, that's alignment with your purpose, that when you really think about it, it makes your palms sweaty. Right. I would love to hear this from each of you here. We'll go around just really quickly on this, and then we'll wrap up for today. Shish, why don't you get us started on this one here? Like we'll start with that, and then we'll go over to you, Dr. Larson.
I didn't get you. Like what?
What's a big what's a big project that you're taking on that gets you both really excited but also pretty scared at the same time? What's the part where you're like walking into uncertainty and unknown? What are you building right now? What are you creating?
Uh, can I tell that from my personal life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've moved to US very recently. So I've started a course. So now I'm like shuttling between my studies, my office work, and personal life. So everything is new. So that is like little scary, and yeah, it's little. So I don't have time literally for anything, but it's very challenging. But I'm loving this. It's new, and yeah, it's very nice. I'm enjoying the process.
Oh, I
I
love
like
it.
the bus I'm in now, shuttling between everything. Yeah.
You said you like this part, you said.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
like it is very demanding, very taxing, but still I like I like my life is busy. I don't have time to sit and worry about anything. But this is like I'm enjoying this, though it's tough.
I love that here. That like spoken like a true outlier is what I'm thinking here, where it's like there can be a lot going on, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing. They talk about overwhelm, they talk about underwhelm, but very few times they ever just talk about whelm. I get that you're whelmed right now, and like that's a good place to be. Thanks, just Dr. Larson. Curious for you, like what's giving you sweaty palms right now?
So my ikigai, or my mission and vision, is to make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest time possible through spontaneous cooperation without ecological disadvantage of anyone. And those are words that were originally said by Buckminster Fuller. And it's a rewriting of that for my mission and vision. And right now, I love Los Angeles. I've lived here for over 20 years. It's my home. And I love the people and the stories and every part of it. And right now, it's small pockets. The big sweaty palm part is, even though helping with small schools that need to be rebuilt, small parts of that, the big part is I want to truly open up my practice, my working with others, to allow anyone that's been hurt, whether it's through trauma or whether it's the children, or I'm an expert manifester, manifesting out of thin air money, that star dance, manifesting connections. So my goal is to have this community restored to better than it was. And so opening my doors, opening that to allow anyone that's been hurt by those. My daughter, who's now 20, she and I were back at Hurricane Katrina before even a flight to come in. And I grew up in New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina was quite devastating there. And she was maybe 8 months old, and we drove cross country, and people were like, we filled the minivan with diapers and all the supplies. And now this has happened right here in this community, Los Angeles. And and all of these. So that's my big mission vision. And that's what we'll be talking about on Miracle Makers podcast, on how to really bring that back to this amazing artist, vibrant community that is seen throughout the world, to bring that back into its fullest synergistic, spontaneous cooperation.
Thank you, Dr. Larson. Thank you for the work you do and for the gift that you bring there. Travis, let's get to know you. What's sweaty palms for you? Then we'll come to Nick, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Definitely. So my sweaty palm thing is right now I'm working with some local first responders to build a program to teach them how to properly interact with people with mental health illness. And the reason it's sweaty palms is because I activate sweaty palms on purpose. This might not be the best approach, but I tend to sell an idea before I create it because the sweaty palms spark the creativity. So it's a little bit backwards, but it's what works for me.
I love this. Yeah, speaking to it. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, I think what I'm working on is essentially like a toolkit for identity, the stories we tell ourselves, like how can we create that? So things like Ikigai and, all of those things, that's kind of like the wheelhouse that I want to give people, specifically more in what I would consider slow flow productivity, a way that we could slow down but still be just as productive. And it's through like toolkits and courses. And so that's something I'm currently working through right now.
If you would ever like any help or just collaboration, Nick, I would love to help you with that.
Sounds good.
This is what we do, right? This is how it comes together. Talking about coming together, Outliers, I have a request of you. We've just had an amazing conversation. We're about to wrap up here. And my ask of you is that you share this out. If you found this episode be valuable for you, you share this out with your world. We grow by word of mouth here. And that'll be really wonderful. And I think that it's about the exchange, the way that things are, both what was said and how it was said and who we were being through it. I think I really want to make sure that gets out there. So if we can share that out with your world, that'd be awesome. And underneath that, I want to invite you to the one person, one conversation at a time initiative. And all we do with this here is that we just I want you to think of one person in your life who would really definitively be supported by this conversation, and to just take the time to share this episode with them as a gift. I think sometimes we hit the share button and we're like, okay, I've done my part, but it doesn't actually get to the impact. That might get exposure and reach, which is cool. It's it feels good and all that stuff. But man, I think all of us would be here if we knew that there was one person who really got a chance to benefit because of this conversation. We'd be like, job well done. All right. So please join us in that conversation. It would mean the absolute world to me. All right. So y'all, we're gonna end our conversation here. This is an important part. Outliers now, they're taken care of. So that we're not gonna wrap it up with some kind of message. We want to get to them. They are going to pull out this conversation and make the connections to their own life. This now is just an opportunity for us to let outliers know how they can continue down the journey with you, and any insight that you got from this conversation, right? So we'll do this in this way. If you can share, let's go with one way that outliers can the best way for them to continue down the journey with you, and what takeaway or insight you got from this conversation, if any. All right. We'll start off with Nick on this one here, and then we'll go to Dr. Larsen.
To continue the conversation, you can follow me on Instagram at Nick_Ovalle. And the key takeaway for me today has been that everybody is telling a story and that our identity is not only ours, it's influenced by the people that we love around us.
Thank you, Nick. Dr. Larsen, and then Travis.
So appreciate this conversation, and I love the brevity with which Nick summarized. And so that's my takeaway, to really succinct storytelling and brevity. And I'd love for, on my website, I give away a dream body guided meditation. And that's the best way to go to the website, drsarahlarsen.com. And therein you start being part of the conversation. It starts being sent to you. And so I so appreciate you. Thank you for this, Outliers. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Larsen. Travis, and then Shush.
Yeah, again, my name is Travis Knowlton, licensed clinical social worker. You can find me on all platforms at Travis Knowlton or Knowlton Travis, backwards on a few of them. And the takeaway that I got from this is there is a lot more passion out there than I think some people give credit for. And there's a lot more really, really good people trying to do good work and really helping each other out.
Thank you. Shush.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And my podcast is Entailing Tales. And my key takeaways, what I say is all of us are from different professions, different walks of life, and still we are all combined through one sole reason to, bring out goodness in whatever we are doing. So that's my key takeaway that I like some about this conversation and the the type of people I've met today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Outliers, know this, like you are not alone. This is how we're playing this game together here. Remember this, and I said this earlier, and I mean it intentionally. Go out there and be you on purpose. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for living the life that you did. And I really do appreciate you.